Good morning, one and all present here. As we continue our exploration of sustainable solutions in civil engineering through interdisciplinary collaborations, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you for the second day conference of International Conference on Interdisciplinary Approaches in Civil Engineering for Sustainable Development. I extend a very hearty welcome to Professor N. Vinod Chandramenon, International Coordinator, G20 C20 Working Group on Sustainable and Resilient Communities, Climate, Environment, and Net Zero Targets, Founder Member, NDMA, Government of India, and our Honorable Chair for IACESD 2023. I also extend a very warm welcome to all the respective keynote speakers. You are welcome to the day 2. I also extend a warm welcome to Dr. K. Gopalakrishna, Principal, Jyoti Institute of Technology. A very warm welcome to every participant present here. Welcome. All the faculties, teaching and non-teaching, and the students of JIT. I hope you enjoy the sessions and make the most of it. I hand over the mic to Ms. Usha to start the keynote session 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhargavi. I, Usha, Department of English, take immense pleasure to introduce Ms. P. Bineesha, Executive Director of International Institute of Waste Management, for the first keynote session titled Circular Economy in Metal Recycling at the IACESD 2023. At the outset, Ms. Bineesha's accomplishments speaks volumes, but due to time constraint, we'll keep it brief. She's an environmental scientist with 23 years broad-based experience in the field of environmental management. Her specialization includes urban and rural environment management with innovative technologies implementation. She has executed more than 150 projects related to waste management, hazardous waste, biomedical waste, e-waste, and domestic solid waste. Ma'am, the list is endless. She has worked on projects of World Bank, UNDP, UNIDO, CIDA, SDC, etc. Ms. Bineesha has undertaken study visits to more than 35 countries in Europe, Australia, and Asia. Ms. Bineesha is the board member of Technology Development Board, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India since November 2018 and chairperson of the DRC of TDB of the same board. She is a member of the AICT's Ministry of HRD Green Campus Committee. She is also the jury of Smart and Clean Campus Program and Leelavati Awards of AICT. Ms. Bineesha is one of the expert resource persons at International Center for Environment Audit and Sustainable Development of the Comptroller and Audit General of India. She is one of the expert member of the panel for selection of appropriate technology for waste dump site reclamation formed under the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Prime Minister's Office. She has been involved in training and capacity building activities and has been the chief trainer for several programs. She has trained more than 500 pollution control board officials across the country and almost 1,500 industrial personnel spanning her entire career. She has successfully completed the World Health Organization's response to COVID-19 courses, a set of 10 courses, and obtained the record of achievement with the highest scores in the test. I think she deserves an applause here. She was conferred with the Women Achiever for the year 2014 by the Garden City Group of Institutions. She has several scientific papers to her credit, including Best Paper Award in International Conference on Emerging Trends in Engineering and Technology for her paper on Utilization of Construction Waste in Sewage Department. Ma'am, we are indeed fortunate to have you and look forward for your session. A humble request to all the keynote speakers to restrict their presentation to 20 to 25 minutes only. Over to Ms. Bineesha.
Good morning, everybody. Actually, this CV which was read is slightly old. I'm 27 years now in the field of waste management. So there are other things which have added up, which gained a little more experience. In fact, now I'm working on circular economy, which is what I would be mainly touching upon in this presentation. I think most of you would have already heard a lot about climate change and also on the sustainability issues since yesterday. Today I would touch upon the circular economy in metal recycling, because I thought it is always better to give some examples which will be a better understanding of the subject rather than going into the entire broad concept. So first of all, before delving into this particular topic, I would like all of you to look at three different pictures which I'm showing here. This is the temperature of our Earth from 1880 to 2021. So this is this scenario was in 1882. If you look at the zero level, which means it is about what we say is about 16 degrees is the average temperature of the Earth. So those during 1882, if you look at all the nations, you would hardly see a few of them which have passed, or it is at least touching +1 of that. Now if you look at the next one, 1980, then you see that most of them are kind of touching that +1. But if you look here, 2021, which is just 2 years before, and if you look at it, you see the contrast and where we are heading to. And here, it is not like the humans, when we talk about humans are doing this, it's we who have contributed to this. Because each one of us here have contributed to this scenario here of the Earth, and we are heading to disaster. I don't want to start off on a negative note, but what I'm saying is, why I want you to look at this is, we are heading towards a major disaster, and this is the right time to actually make the changes, and we cannot wait longer. And circular economy or the recycling, secondary usage, these will definitely contribute a long way in reducing the temperature, or at least to not increase it. Yeah, I'm sure most of you know why this 1.5 degrees centigrade, what are the impacts it is having. This would have been dealt yesterday. I'm not going into details, but let's look at the relationship of climate change and recycling. This is why I wanted to show you those three scenarios. See now, like all of us have a budget, our country has, our state has, even your institution also has a fixed budget. And here, if we talk about Earth's budget, it is a carbon budget. And we are running out of our carbon budget very fast. And how fast it is? We only have 6 years and 100 days left to reaching the global warming of 1.5 degrees centigrade and all those impacts which is talked about on climate change. 70% of this global greenhouse gas emissions are related to material handling and use. And that is the relationship between the recycling and why we should go for recycling and the climate change context. To bring this 1.5 degree centigrade pathway, countries should reduce resource extraction, because we know mining and other things should be as minimal as possible, and use at least 28%, which will enable reduction of 39% of GHG, and that's quite a lot. So this is the reason why we are saying that circular economy is one of the key parts required to tackle climate change. Now, my presentation, I have outlined it like this. First of all, I was under the impression that there must have been somebody who did talk about circular economy, but I got to know that this was not dealt. So I'm just giving you a short introduction on that. Then the metal consumption with respect to construction industry. Why I have taken construction industry is this is one of the most booming sector. This is something which touches each one of us. So we understand it better. So metal in terms of construction industry. Then need for secondary steel or recycled steel, and India's policies to encourage circular economy. So that's a very positive note which I want to end the presentation. Okay, now to what is circular economy? If you look at the circular diagram, I mean, this is the reason why it is called circular economy. The linear economy is you start consuming things, take it from the earth, take it from the atmosphere, all kinds of resources, and then consume it. And then whatever is used, even energy, everything, and then finally it gets wasted. You dump it in a landfill or you burn it in an incinerator, and there it ends. So that's a linear economy. Whereas what we need to change and what is the new philosophy in waste management is the circular economy, where you have resource extraction and then the material and the product is designed. And here in the design itself, you do it in such a way that it can be recovered. Just to give you one example, all of you would have read in the papers about the new chargers of the mobiles and the cables. We have now a universal cable. Do you know why we have it as universal cable? This is part of the designing. Yeah, it is mainly because you can use it for any kind of mobiles. So when you change your mobile, you don't have to buy an extra cable. And if you have 2 different mobiles, or in your house, if there are 4 mobiles, you don't have to have different cables for every mobile. And everything will be the same. So for this, since 2002, we have been advocating, and finally now, world over, they have changed it, and this is a good breakthrough which has come. Otherwise, imagine the number of cables each of you are having at home, and the metals which are there in it. Either it is steel, or here it is aluminium or copper, whatever. Now these kind of things you will reduce, because otherwise it has to be again recycled. A lot of energy, a lot of resources wasted for not only from the mining, but also during the making of it, the manufacturing of it. And then you are consuming it. That is where you have the use of it. So there itself, there are many things which you can adopt. And then there is a question of recovery of it. Other than in the linear economy, it goes to the landfills or the incinerator. Here you can have a re-engineering and recover it, and very, very minimal will go into the waste. So this is called the circular economy. So finally, now that's the broad son of it. But under each of these itself, you can bring it back. Like if you're going to reuse and repurpose, then what happens is, again, there is a lesser resource used, there is lesser energy being used. If you are going to do remanufacturing, of course, you need to transport, and then again, it has to go into energy needs to be used, and sometimes a little more resource, and then it can be remanufactured, which is also good. But if you look at the path, again, it's a little longer path. The longer path means longer energy, longer resource used. Then you have the recycling, which is also a better possibility, and you bring back the material because you are still not extracting the resource from the earth. And the best way would be again a shorter path, but a metal completely recovering the materials and then going into the product design. So this is called the circular economy. Now, world over, everybody has to follow this because otherwise we are not going to, come to the net zero. Now, what in terms of waste management, this circular economy principle has to be used along with this inverted triangle, which is a principle which we call as the waste management hierarchy. Because prevention is the best thing to do, but we can't go back to hunter-gatherer stage, right? We have to be in the development mode. So, but still there are so many things which we can prevent. And that's like how I was talking to you about the cables itself. Then we can reduce the use because, for example, the clothes which we are using. So most of the time, unnecessarily we will buy it. So those kind of things, there are many things in our day-to-day life which we can reduce. Then the next best option would be to reuse the thing, like give it to somebody else in your own family or to another person who needs it. Finally, if all these are not possible, then go for recycling. The worst would be, and recovery is the next best option because still you have to use a lot of energy there. The last option, which is if everything is exhausted, only then go for disposal. So if you use this principle to the circular economy, then the circular economy is the best way to follow. Okay. Now coming back to the SDG goals of circular economy, especially when you talk about the SDG goal of responsible consumption and production, that is where the metal recycling can be best explained. And I would like to use this particular the thought, which is burn, buy and beyond. Now, all of you would be going back into the construction industry or into an industry, or also maybe as decision makers. Always think of these 3 Bs, because what happens is, first of all, the consumption of resources and energy when you are manufacturing or when you are utilizing a substance in your sector. So that is the burning, because there you burn. So as much as possible, reduce that burning of energy and resources. The next one, especially if you talk about construction industry, use of steel bars, which is definitely needed, but how best you can make that the emissions are reduced. Use renewable energy and have very less wastage. So have circular economy within the industry and then manufacture it. The next one is, if you're making the same steel bar, it is not enough that you take care of only your industry, because you also have to see that to make this, you are transporting, you are purchasing the bars from the TMT manufacturer. I mean, there I was talking about the consumption in the construction industry. Here, then they also consume the resources. The last one is beyond, which means it is the mining of the iron ore and then the disposal of the wastes which are there. So, which is the indirect emissions. So, you have to look at the entire life cycle of emissions and consumptions of resources when you are looking at a circular economy. So that's why we call it as burn, buy and beyond. Construction industry and the steel consumption, this is the crux of my presentation. If you see why we have to concentrate on this, construction industry ranks 3rd among the 14 major sectors in terms of direct, indirect and also induced effect, which means the impact in the sector of economy. And especially India, which we are now soon going to be a 5 trillion economy, we have to consider construction, and also because the population of our country is also huge, and we have to consume, we have to have homes. So if you look at the number of houses that is needed for our country, currently only 3 houses are built per 1,000 people per year, which is compared to the required 5 houses which are needed. So which means there is a big gap, and our economy is booming. That means all these constructions will also start happening very fast. So that's why the entire world is concentrating on India and Indian economy. So that's why the construction, which means about 10 million units of households, we need to build in our country, and that means India will consume. It is currently also the second largest amount of metal, especially steel, in the world in this sector, and it will soon surpass even China, because they are already reaching saturation. So we need to really look at this sector. And if you see the graph there, the share of steel demand in the construction industry, 35 to 40% is the steel demand for our country. And this is just increasing manifold. Now, if you look at recycling steel sector for achieving net zero, this is another aspect. Approximately 7% of the greenhouse gas emissions come from the steel produced due to primary route. Now, this is why there is a lot of demand for steel. And if we think of getting everything from the primary sector, that is by mining, then we will just keep consuming, and it's going to be a disaster in terms of climate change. However, there is a silver line for this, because we can use the secondary route. Because steel or any kind of metal is an item which can be recycled umpteen times, and there won't be any change in the properties. Whereas if you're talking about plastics and all that, maximum 3 times or 4 times is what you can recycle. After that, you cannot recycle it, and it has to go into either landfills or burn. So this is one material which can be used for infinite use, and that is why construction industry should always go for secondary, and no change in the quality will also be there. And if you see why it is so, by 2050, the CO2 emissions due to primary steel production is almost 300 million tons at the current rate of emissions. And it would become 540 million tons of CO2 by 2050. So reducing this carbon footprint using the recycled steel, why it is so is because this entire 50 million tons per annum, we can actually do it only by secondary steel, and that's possible. Only thing is the route of taking it from the construction demolition or from whatever consumptions which we are doing, like our vehicles or at home, whatever appliances we are using, that's the white goods and all that, wherever we are using steel, that needs to be brought back and it has to get recycled. Now that route of how we will manage with the least emission is what needs to be really looked at. So that is why we are saying that this, to reach the net zero, it is very well possible by using only the steel, secondary steel. Now, if you look at also the, recycled steel availability from building industry and the offset, if you see by 2070, this CO2 savings in terms of million tons, you can see how when it comes to the primary production and the emissions, it's one of the best methods to really use. Yeah, now coming to GOI's policy, we have Path A, Path B and Path C, which like I told you about the burn, buy and beyond. All the 3 pathways have been recognized. There's a Niti Aayog report each of the line ministries responsible have also been roped in, and they have all been given targets. We have several policies also. I also work with MRAI, that's the Material Recycling Association of India, and they have been they are one of the knowledge partners of the government, and especially in Maharashtra, we are also planning to have a recycling park, because that's the way forward, and most of the states are looking at this option now. So this recycling industry is going to it's going to be a booming industry very soon. So if we look at today how IT is going to be there, tomorrow it is going to be recycling industry. That's what is the prediction. The Ministry of Steel has come out with policies. There is a steel scrap policy. They have also set a target of net zero in 2070 and encouraging circular economy parks. There are some policies which even the state governments have formed. Policies to enable urban mining. That's the MOHUA, which is the Ministry of Housing, and also the Urban Development. The Ministry of Environment and Forests. So all these ministries are working towards this. So landfills which are already there, they're trying to do the urban mining and take out the recyclables, the resources. Metal is another important sector. The country that's the future oil. So we need to really hoard the metals in our country. So that's why a lot of research is also going on as to how to do a complete recovery from the materials which are already there, that is from the products. And e-waste is one of the major sector, because lithium, indium, these are things which are not even available in our country. And we need to really, try and take it out from the urban mining, which is from the products which have already been put out. We have also the Life Mission, which our government, in fact, it's a pet project of the Prime Minister, because it's not enough that these are done by industries or by the ministry. Each one of us also are part of it. And how we help in the changing our lifestyle so that the consumption is minimal, and also make sure that things are segregated at home and then given to the recycling industry. That's a big mode, which is a mission mode in which the government is now going ahead. So with that positive note, I think I will end my presentation. In case there is any questions, I can take it now, or I don't know, how is it? Thank you.
Madam, which other sector, like steel, is a major trend?
Yeah. See, all ferrous, non-ferrous, it is the best for recycling. However, even for other sectors, like if you're looking at construction, demolition waste, wood, everything what is there, except maybe bricks and all that, currently we don't have any process of, maybe we can just reuse by cutting it and all that. But otherwise, making M-sand from the demolition waste, that is also being done. In fact, even in Bangalore, we have a center. Then plastics, we have, plastics is another, I mean, it's a necessity that we really take that out and, bring it back into the system. So almost everything can be recycled, but there is a big cost to it. Whereas for steel and other things, the cost is also lower. I mean, lower in the sense as compared to the primary sector. So for certain things, you need to pump in money to bring that out. Certain things like e-waste, because all recovery of precious metals and other things is very profitable. So that is why they pay you to get your waste. Whereas plastic, nobody will pay you. You have to pay to get rid of it. So everything depends on that. So if you are doing something where you have to pay to get rid of it, that means the recycling value is lower. Whereas when there is a value to it, they pay and get things out of it. That's...
This carbon footprint, we have another 6 years.
Yes. Yeah, 6 years and 100.
That we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, the countries are moving towards it, and that is why there is today every sector, anywhere you go, any kind of conference. I'm not talking about the sustainability conference. Even if it is a complete manufacturing or any sector you go, you always have one, at least one slide of every presentation which touches the climate change or world over. So carbon footprint is now ingrained in everybody's mind. So I think that's a very good because at least awareness is there and there are targets set. So hopefully we can achieve.
What about the producer's responsibility?
Yes, EPR I did not touch. That's a good question. In fact, those are incentives which the government is giving, so that at least that encourages people to give back and helps in recycling also. So the producer, whoever is producing, they have to contribute from their profits some amount for recycling or for even recovery of the material. But circular economy goes one step beyond, that is they themselves have to use it. So now there are targets like steel. If every steel industry or any sector which is making steel, they have to have minimum of 15% which is secondary steel. So like this for everything they have given. Now even plastic products. So they say you have to use so much of secondary recovered product. So that is a target which is quite good. And for that also EPR helps.
I would like to ask two questions.
Yes.
Please give
The first question is about the 1880 to 2021, the way in which temperature has been changing.
Yeah.
You have talked about the situation around the world.
Yeah.
And if you really look at 2021, and now we are in 2023,
Yeah.
you see that the heat wave is happening not only in Asian countries, it's also happening in Europe, it's happening in many countries.
Yeah.
So I think the 2023 situation may be much worse.
Definitely.
Lots of more brown and more red.
Yeah.
You know,
No, that's why I just put those two which are close to each other, but just between 1992 and 21, you can see the drastic change. And now even if you take within 2 years, it's again worse. Now just 4 days back, we saw that Earth, the temperatures across the Earth temperature, it went up almost by 1 degree. And on that particular day, which is very, very alarming. And there were many newspapers which reported it, but there are scientists who have mentioned that if the 2-3 days of that happens, it's going to be really, really bad. And we have been seeing it. See, these are not predictions because we are seeing the kind of climate change. We are, the kind of floods which are happening. And Europe and all that, they are not used to that kind of temperature at all. And what is the kind of change?
Just as a follow-up, because you are the executive director of the International Institute of Waste Management, circular economy in the context of solid waste management.
Yeah.
What is your suggestion about the landfills and solid waste management in many cities around the country? Because we see, in spite of the Swachhata mission and others, we are still seeing a lot of waste all around, when you're traveling within the country.
That's true.
So what is your solution to solid waste management in urban centers?
See, there are technologies now, and especially if you're talking in terms of Indian context, because I was telling you 27 years I've been working and I've seen the evolution. And one positive thing is a lot of technology interventions have come in. Awareness has definitely increased. And there are things which are happening. But there is a little more effort which everybody has to put in. And here what happens is it's not like, an industry or a sector where you can have policies and immediately you can bring in change. But here it is behavioral change which also needs to be brought in. And that is why it is taking a little longer time. And it's not enough that you are aware. Now it's almost everybody is aware. But that little extra effort to make sure that we are segregating. And it's not enough that we segregate. We also have to make sure that our ULBs, our panchayats, wherever we are living, they also do their jobs properly. So we have to be a little more vigilant. And unless that is there, we will not achieve this. Because technologies definitely are there. The infrastructures are also there in most of the cities and even two-tier cities today. But things are not really happening because there are lacks and there are small things which are like which needs to be again taken care of. I don't want to say. I mean, of course, there is corruption. There is even negligence. So for which every individual should really think of it.
Just one small suggestion, since you are here and you're also associated with the Principal Scientific Advisor's Office as an advisor, I would request you to take some time to visit CIRC in Jyoti Institute of Technology, and Dr. Gopalakrishna, the principal, and Dr. Venkatesh, who is the director of the CIRC, because they have a lot of startup
Innovation,
months
yeah.
and innovations which are
Good.
really world class and very promising.
Right.
It will be an encouragement to CIRC and Jyoti Institute.
Thanks for pointing this, because the answer to your previous question also lies in each one of us having some kind of innovation and entrepreneurship in waste management. This is one sector which will really give you a lot of opportunities to take up your own entrepreneurship. And here it is not like there are no entry barriers, because in many entrepreneurship of waste management there is lower initial income. The capital investment is also low and the profits are much higher. Competition is less and there is abundant opportunity, because there are more than 4,000 ULBs which are there. So everywhere they require something or the other. So that is why I was telling you that this is one sector which is going to boom. And if you start right now, then you will have a big head start. And not many big industry in this sector is also there in the country. And we are heavily depending on the municipalities or the public sector. And that's why it is more like a service oriented. From that service mode, if it goes into profit mode and if it enters the entrepreneurship mode, then we will see a big change in this sector. And for that, it is all you have to do it, because you have the opportunity. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that. Thanks.
In highway construction, we are producing lot of this waste material.
Yes.
So nowadays we are making 4-lane to 6-lane and like that 2-lane to 4-lane.
Right.
So these bituminous and concrete
Aggregates.
aggregates
Lots,
lots
yeah.
of these things we are demolishing and keeping outside. So these waste management of these material is being a big
Right.
challenge.
Yeah.
If we utilize, some papers are there to
I know.
utilize, but it is not mandatory.
That's
like
true.
nowadays we are using these ponders and flyers, it is become mandatory
Yeah.
by the government. So please see how we can make it mandatory to reuse of this demolished material which can be recycled.
True.
Like these things can be made and converted into aggregate sand and used.
Yeah.
And whatever wrap material is there, bituminous material is there, that also can be used in
Correct.
again. So that recycled procedures are there,
Yeah.
and we can use this plastic and waste material like that to improve our road quality also.
Yeah.
But it is not being utilized means promptly, or we can say whatever we have to utilize. So
That's true.
change is not being made.
Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, now there is also guidelines which for the construction of roads to utilize from construction demolition waste the aggregates that is for lining under the bituminous liner. So that has already come in, and there are standards, and there are many highways which are already using it. So you can actually go to the NHAI website. They have given those criteria also.
Yeah, I am
So,
working for
but,
NHI.
Yeah.
I am working for NHI, but
Yeah.
people who are engineer authority,
Right.
even utilizing of recycled steel material, which properties are same
Same.
as primary, but they are not allowing.
Yeah.
Actually,
that is what now there is this policy, and we have an Akkam drive which is happening in the country, where what you are talking about using steel both in railways and that secondary steel
Yeah.
in railways and in NHAI is being talked about. So I think they have already sent out the drafts, and it's waiting for the final approval. So
Yeah.
once that is done, then there will not be any change in primary and secondary people participating in the tenders of the government.
So,
But otherwise, there are TMT and other things in the other sector. It is used now. I mean, it's especially because it's cost effective. So everywhere else it is being used. But when it comes to these major sectors, this clause used to be there in the tenders, which
Yeah.
now is being removed. Is going to be removed very fast.
yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any student? No questions from the students? Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bineesha. The session was very effective. Lots of food for thought. We are also humbled by the responses and thank you for an active participation. Our heartfelt thanks to Ms. Bineesha for sparing her precious time to share the key message amongst us. I request Dr. Vishwanath, HOD, Department of Chemistry, to felicitate Ms. Bineesha on behalf of Jyoti Institute of Technology. I also request our beloved principal to join Vishwanath sir. Thank you, madam. Thank you all.